to Ladies and Lattes here at Northmar. Let me just adjust this for 1 second. My name is Mary Tepfer, and I am just thrilled that you came out tonight on this cold, wintry evening to talk about money. I didn't think anybody would show up. If this is your first time here tonight, we really want to know if that's you. So would you please raise your hand if you're with us at Ladies and Lattes for the first time? Wow, we are always amazed. Praise God. We are always thrilled that more and more people keep hearing about us and showing up. So we hope this won't be your last time. If you were with us before, if you recall the last time we gathered, we talked about stress and how we could achieve peaceful living in this stressed out world if we have God as our focus. Well, nothing stresses us out more than money, right? Or the lack of it. So we're going to talk about that tonight. We've gathered a panel of women whom you'll meet here in a moment who found ways to keep money in their pockets. And so I'm hoping that that translates to the rest of us. And that's what happens here at Ladies and Lattes. We talk with a panel of women about the topic of the evening. We see how God has moved in their lives, and we walk away a little richer for having shared in the conversation. Before we begin, we must get some thank yous out there because so many people are responsible for putting on a Ladies and Lattes event. We must thank Ed Mink and his crew for setting up all the chairs and tables. We must thank Doreen Newton, who made all the beautiful table arrangements, and Kathy Razanoff, who helped her to set everything up. We must thank Judy Shortreed and her team of lovely greeters who greeted you with a smile this evening. We must thank Casey Schaefer and Lisa Canad, who served you yummy beverages back there. I'm hoping those are edifying to your bodies tonight. We must thank Jim Hall and Diane Lindberg back there, our great technical crew who are helping us out. We are indebted to Jill Huffman, who made sure that this yummy Indiana popcorn is in front of you. It's addicting. We are thankful to Julie Newmeyer and to Adrian Zelani and all the other childcare workers who are watching our children tonight. Praise God for them. And we are thankful to our cleanup crew, even though they don't want me to say their names, Tricia Gurek and Jamie Batchelder. Thank God for them for cleaning up after we are done. And finally, to Jill Huffman and Sharon Dahm, who are the behind-the-scenes people for Ladies and Lattes. They do a ton of work with me to put this event on, and so I am indebted to them for bringing Ladies and Lattes to fruition. So, round of applause for all the people responsible. Okay, so we're going to get serious and talk about how we can become more disciplined when it comes to handling money. We just came from blowing all our money on Christmas. So now we need to wrap a chain around our wallets. There'll be a wallet up there with a big chain around it in a moment. And lock them shut, don't we? But that's tough, isn't it? I mean, how many of you salivate at the thought of the January sales? Yeah, raise your hand if you think that you are a spender. Yeah, come on, fess up, you liars. I mean, January is when they give all their stuff away, right? And we have to be there to get it. This is no time to be locking up our wallets. Well, you're obviously like me if you enjoy going out in January to shop. And I think it's that we spenders keep the shopkeepers happy. We allow them to hang their "yes, we're open" signs for another day. We are the people that no one wants to take with them when they go shopping for a car, because we wear all over our faces that we will pay the man, right? That we're not trying to be coy with the sales guy. We just have this "I spend a lot" on our faces, don't we? So it's clear we're going to take it. Well, my husband learned about me that I cannot be trusted in his presence if he wants to get a good deal, or for that matter, if he wants to keep any of his money. We went to one of those home and garden expos early on in our marriage, and I was easily sucked in by the chamois guy. You know, the guy who manages to suck up an entire two-liter bottle of Pepsi in his little miracle towel so that the stain the soda would have left on my carpet is completely gone. Well, that did it for me. I mean, I don't know how many of you get excited about clean things, but I get really excited about that. So I literally looked at David, my husband, after the Chamois Guys demonstration and said to him, pay the man. And I say that a lot. It's easy to get sucked into deals, isn't it? Well, my favorite comedian, Tim Hawkins, has something to say about the deals that you can get at the movie theater. Let's hope this works.
I took my family to a movie last week. I want to stay consistent with my history of making bad financial decisions. Took them to a movie. It cost us $60 to get in the door. That's before the snack bar and those Whopper deals you get there. Kids are like, Daddy, we want something from the snack bar. I'm like, I'll go get some. I don't care. Daddy will figure something out. I'll start throwing papers or something. Folks, I bought a box of goobers for $4 at the movie. $4 for a box of goobers? I did the math. That's 23 cents a goober. Yes, you are what you eat. That's the deal there. But that wasn't the bad part. The bad part was when I got my drink. I wanted to get a 44-ounce, soda. That's a large. So I said to the kid, give me the 44-ounce soda, $5. $5, that's, get a deal like that, you usually got to go to Disney World. And I am Mr. Frugal. But I ordered a 44-ounce soda to go, sir, the kid, sir, you can get for 25 cents more. You could get a 64-ounce soda, and it's free refills. See, some of you know where I'm going with it. I'm going to make a cultural statement right now. If you're drinking 64 ounces of soda and you need a refill, cling, clang, hear ye, hear ye. You're drinking too much soda. Quit while you still have a pancreas, man. If you can't palm your drink, you need to get a smaller drink. Oh, I'm Bring me a straw, okay. That is too much.
I just love him. If I had been there, I would have said an extra 20 ounces for only 25 cents. Pay the man. My poor husband has learned over the years that I say that a lot. You see, David is the saver. All right, so how many of you consider yourselves to be the savers? Yeah. Yeah, you balance us out, us spenders, but you also suck the joy out of living. David and I had a family meeting recently to talk about our budget for the new year. And I kid you not, he literally cut anything that was remotely fun in our lives. No more cable TV, no more XM radio, no more newspaper, which I only look at the newspaper to see the obituaries anyway, so I don't know why I care about that, but Instead, we have to save for things like my daughter's braces, or eyeglasses, or next year's firewood. When we got to the budget for the cat, I held my breath. I mean, I know that he's a dog lover, so I was sure poor Ophelia was just toast. If it was up to David, we'd be living in a cave collecting lint. Am I right? Those of you who know poor David. We recently watched an episode of one of the old episodes of The Cosby Show, and Claire wanted to buy an expensive painting at an auction. So she asked Cliff if it would be okay to bid on it. So David decided that this would be a teachable moment for our daughter, Katie. And so he said, yes, that's what you're supposed to do when you want to make a big purchase. Since every dollar has a name, you will want to make sure you ask your husband if it's okay to use bonus money for a big, expensive purchase like that. So I looked at him and rolled my eyes. Yes, sweetheart, every dollar does have a name, and this one is called leopard shoes, and this one is called yoga pants, and this one just might be called diamond ring if I decide that it might be called. The irony of this conversation is that I have grown so much in our marriage, and I know that he wasn't really directly speaking to me. I still spend. I am a spender. I can admit that. I could go to one of those meetings and say I'm a spender. But I'm really good at finding the deals, good deals for the things that I buy. I actually work really hard at that. People who know me well know that I go to garage sales. I use promo codes when I'm buying things online. I clip coupons and actually use them. We had a discussion among the panel of the mounds of coupons we have that we don't ever use, but I do. I use them. But I didn't always work so hard at that. In fact, I grew up being forced to eat generic macaroni and cheese. Anybody? Is there any flavor in that, really? You guys, or using the generic dish detergent, which I don't understand the meaning of that because you end up pouring the whole bottle to get the suds to actually do anything. But I grew up with that, and I was never allowed to have that amazing Captain Crunch peanut butter cereal. My dad was very thrifty, and he would walk around the house with gaping holes in his t-shirts. Did anybody else have a dad like that? And there would be packages upon packages of unopened t-shirts that we just wished he would, but evidently those were too fancy. So, and his mother, my grandmother, still had a wringer washer and one of those refrigerators that you had to defrost until the day she died. And that was 1991. So, we never really spent a lot of money growing up, and there was only one time in my whole growing up life that I can remember that we splurged, and that was when my mother took me to Strauss's. Do you remember Strauss's? And we went to the lady behind the makeup counter, the Estee Lauder lady, and we splurged so that she could teach me skincare techniques because I was in high school and pimples were way beyond my mother's ability. Well, you would have thought, the way my poor dad reacted, that we bought the state of Florida. I mean, it was like, what? For skincare products? So when I graduated from college and got my first teaching job at a private high school making $17,500 a year, I decided to move away from the land of, no, that's too expensive, and move on to my own land of, sure, why not? Now, of course, you're all doing the math and realize that there's no way with $17,500 that I probably could make it on my own, and especially with the attitude of I want a nice apartment and a brand new car, without realizing that there's college loans and life insurance and car insurance and utility bills to pay. So needless to say, there wasn't enough money left to buy groceries and toiletries to put into my nice apartment and gas to put into my brand new car. So I began what would become a trend for me. I started charging my groceries. Have we all been there? No one's admitting to that.
Yes.
All right. Well, I didn't deny myself much. I just put it on the credit card. Well, 7 years later, I met David. And he was the only person I know in my whole life who made money going to college, because he had gotten so many scholarships, and that it not only paid for his books, it paid for that parking fee, it paid for everything. So he was actually like getting paid to go to college. And yet he meets me with all of these bags of groceries that he never had a chance to enjoy himself. And so, of course, I realized that my dad was merely trying to teach me about being a good steward with my money, just as David is trying to teach Katie. But the problem is that many of us savers, and I shouldn't even say us, of you savers out there, come across as thinking that money is evil or something and it should never be touched. Well, the Bible does not say that money is the root of all evil. It's the love of money that is the root of all evil. And some people craving money have wandered from the true faith and pierced themselves with many sorrows. That's from 1 Timothy 6:10. Dave Ramsey, a famous financial advisor and creator of Financial Peace University, which we'll be talking about, says that we need to think of money like we do bricks. Bricks are neutral objects, right? If we build a school with a brick, or an orphanage with a brick, or if we throw the brick through a window, the common denominator is the we. So the brick is not evil or good. And the same goes with money. How can we make sure that we spend our money wisely and not foolishly? How can we make sure that we don't fall into any traps of placing more importance on the things that we buy than placing on our relationship with God? Well, I believe that these ladies here to my left will help us to get on the right road. And that is the purpose of this evening. So I hope that you will help me to welcome our panelists for the evening, Sarah Hummel, Heather Halstead, Ingrid Hamilton, and Pam Poland. Okay, so tell us, we're just going to go in order, but then we're just going to kind of popcorn around afterwards. Tell us what prompted you to become so money savvy, Sarah.
Well, that's actually how fitting. When you're a poor college student, you really need to know how to use your money well. And God definitely blessed me with a wonderful job that I loved, but I only got paid once a month.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you had to learn to be disciplined.
Oh yeah, disciplined. And then when I got off the full meal plan, I added groceries to that budget, among other bills. So it was a little bit challenging. I didn't know how to budget. Never entered my mind to even bother to ask my parents, who are really financially wise, about how to do this. I was like, okay, let's just roll with the punches. Well, pretty soon it got to be, I don't have enough money. Let me charge it, because I'll pay my credit card bill off every month. And I did do that, but it got to the point where, I have to move money from savings to checking to pay for my bills? Really? I wasn't liking that. And granted, it was only like $30 at a time, but still, when you're pulling money that you saved out of your savings account to pay for an ugly bill that if you had budgeted, you could actually pay for, it's not looking so pretty. So I eventually learned how to, I have this much in bills. So it was a rough budget, and then the rest I could just spend. But I wasn't saving anything, so I really didn't know how to budget, and I just didn't like that either. But by the time I graduated and I got my first full-time job, I sat down with my parents and had them really show me how to budget, and that was a huge lifesaver.
Well, so how did they sit down, and what did they say that helped you to turn the tide? In the budgeting, like
in the budgeting?
Yeah,
well, when I sat down, I
suggestions did they give
started
you?
asking questions about, I have these bills, but there's stuff like life insurance I never thought about that I'd have to start paying, or what about that AAA payment you only pay once a year?
Right.
Definitely didn't think about that. Or gifts. When Christmas comes, I don't have money for gifts. So
and Christmas is every year.
Yeah.
It's not like it just should sneak up on you.
Yeah,
that
I know,
it's
right?
not-
But it just doesn't enter your mind. All of a sudden, I have to pay for that.
Yeah.
But yes, they started giving me ideas about, you have to think about this and that and that. And so they gave me ideas about what was in their budget, and that really helped me to really learn, I do have to pay for that, I have to pay for that, and that, and that, and that, and these other things I kind of forgot about. Plus, my student loans, since those are due, and the government would really like to have their money.
Wow. Well, tell us about those student loans, because she has a little success story, too.
I do have a success story. I had $13,500 in loans by the time I graduated 2.5 years ago. And with God's blessing, I was able to pay off over $10,000 so far. And it's been 2 years and 4 months since I've been paying on my loans. I have less than $3,000 on my loans. So praise God.
Yeah, and it's probably when that started happening, and it was probably when you finally sat down with your parents and got yourself on a budget, because then, or at least maybe I'm presupposing, but
yeah,
I think,
presupposing. I did the budget, and then I did financial peace and really started the debt snowball to pay off my debt.
Oh, so the loan thing, you were able to really tackle it. That's awesome. And that's, so that's why she's up here, because clearly she's got a handle on the way that we should be living so that all of our bills are being handled. Because Dave Ramsey, this financial advisor, really does instruct us that you really should have no debt other than your home, really, in your life. And that's tricky for us to get to that point. But he does instruct us, and there are many ways to get you to do that. And so we're just going to keep talking, and then we'll eventually talk a little bit more about Dave Ramsey's program. But okay, so thank you, Sarah. Heather, tell us what prompted you to become so money savvy.
Well, I think just over time and life happening, I think with me, life started quickly. I moved out when I was 18 on my own, and so you just, life happens, bills happen, and I did not figure it out at her age, which I wish I did. But yes, I had my daughter in college, and I was married in college. So started off young, and when you run out of money, you start realizing, I guess I need to do something about this.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And you start figuring out how to do things for less money when you don't have much left over.
So you have to be creative.
Yes.
Yeah. And I know that you have a whole list of creative tricks up your sleeve to share with us that you've learned over the years, so we'll come back to you. But anything else to add about that?
Nothing very important, no.
Okay. Oh, I'm sure. Well, I'm just, for the sake of time, but we'll come back to you. Don't you worry. All right, Ingrid.
Well, one of the things that helped us to focus our dealing with money and budgeting was about 10 years ago when we bought a house, and I bought my couch for my living room. And a friend of mine had bought Dave Ramsey, and she was broke, and this was actually her second thing that she had bought, money type of thing. And so my husband and I, in order to support them, because here we had just bought all this stuff, and we had a very large amount of debt at this point, we decided to sit down with them and listen to the Dave Ramsey program. And I was actually really mad at her because I felt like she had no business in buying this because she really had no money to purchase it. Well, it ended up that Jim and I actually started listening to Dave Ramsey and listening to the budgeting and all that. And our idea of a budget was actually just to write down what we were spending, but we didn't actually budget it. We just kind of saw where it went and just was like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. And if we ran out of money at the end of the month, we would just charge it. And my idea of saving was to save it so that I could buy whatever I wanted.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And later. And then when we started listening to Dave Ramsey, we were like, oh, that's what a budget is. Okay, well, I think I can do that. So I started actually doing it. Jim said, well, if you can do it, then prove it to me. And so I went and did it for a couple months, and I said, hey, it's actually working. There actually is money in the bank.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so anyways, needless to say, my friend she was a godsend that she let us listen to that, because I didn't buy it, she did. So anyways, it was a sweet thing that she shared with us. And it was not the first time I'd ever tried to do money, and I understood the workings of money with regards to the stock market and investing and all that, but I had no idea how to budget money and how to actually try and categorize it. That actually wasn't something that made any sense to me until I actually sat down with this particular program. And Jim and I started coming together and praying about it and just working on that together. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Wow. And so do you feel like this was 10 years ago, right? You
It was a little over 10. It was about 11, but yeah. about
So
10.
do you feel like you have a real savings now, and that you are saving for things more than just the things you want to buy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually, and at that point, we decided not to charge anything, and we did cut up our credit cards and all that fun stuff, but we made that commitment just to no longer charge anything. If we didn't have the money for it, really simple, and it's kind of one of those, keep it simple, stupid things, but my grandparents did it, and I don't know, it just never quite translated down to my generation in my family. And so when we started doing this, we saved, we were able to pay cash, and we had a ton of things break down at that point, which was kind of humorous, because, and thank goodness my husband's very handy. Yeah, very ironic, and so we were able to cash all those through and not charge anything else, and so it's been huge. It's a huge difference to walk around with cash. It took a while to get used to that. I was a little nervous at first, and yeah.
How many of you have envelopes? You live out of your envelopes every month. Oh, people. This is the answer.
Yeah.
Am I right?
The white envelope?
This is the answer. If you have something that you need for the house, a light bulb or something, it comes out of your housing money, your housing envelope. If you want to eat at a restaurant, if there's no money in the restaurant's envelope, too bad. You eat SpaghettiOs or something that night.
Wow.
If you want to get a haircut, there's the hair envelope, right? How many of you probably, the people on the panel probably have envelopes. That's why they're on the panel. Groceries, if it's empty, then you need to make do with what's in your pantry until you get paid again. That is what we're trying to talk about. That's the ticket to becoming more money savvy, is when there's something, Dave Ramsey talks about this, there's something painful about seeing your cash go away. So you spend less of it. It's true. Your cash is sort of, you're attached to it. Whereas you have no attachment to that plastic credit card. There's no physical attachment really. So you'll just swipe till kingdom come and it's okay. So I encourage you, that should be the first step, is to get your budget together, which we're hopefully going to be talking about a little bit more. That's question 2. And then once you get your budget together, start deciding which are the things that you need to have an envelope for so that you can put cash in that and do a cash-only way of spending as much as you possibly can. Baby steps. Start small. Maybe create just a few envelopes. I don't know. Something to think about. Okay, Pam, tell us your story.
Being thrifty, I was raised that way. There's a combination of being the last of 6. And
Wow.
Yeah. My father went to school, worked 2 jobs, and my mom went to school after she had all 6 of us. So, when my pants got too short, out came the fringe.
Get
Right?
out.
Yeah. If something broke, my father being an engineer, got the screwdriver and fixed the hairdryer. So if something needed to be sewn, we all had our own little sewing kits. We were very thrifty. My father was a drill sergeant in the Army, so we were raised very strict. Very, very budgeted and very exact. So just that type, and I thought of this, some of you don't know this, but Mary gave us the question. So, all this week I was thinking through, and remembering back to, you can go one of 2 ways. If you had a rough childhood, you could be that person who's like, I'm making lots of money and I'm going to have fun spending it, Or you could be someone who, even though life was maybe rough when you were younger, and this was me, I learned to appreciate it. I was okay with the hand-me-downs. I was okay that I didn't get the real Chuck Taylor Converse and I got the the generic kind.
Yeah.
I'm not in therapy for
generic.
it. I'm fine. So when we're younger, and that helps you too when you think of your kids when they just want. I think we live in a nation that statistically, our poorest are considered wealthy to the other parts of the world.
That's very true.
Our poorest.
Yeah.
So anyway, my childhood and being thrifty then, fried bologna, and we had portions, so nothing was really in excess. And but then I, like Heather, was out on my own at 19, and I was making good choices, and then started not making good choices, and ended up homeless and pregnant in the streets of New York City. So I had to learn to be thrifty through being a single mother in New York. No financial help from the father, and always had roommates. God set it up. Now, and I should just kind of say this, I grew up in a Christian home, but through my bad choices, I ended up pregnant and homeless on the street. But I ended up going to church, and a group of women just kind of pulled me in, and I lived on couches all through my pregnancy, 5 flight walk-ups, my belongings in a grocery bag as my belly was getting bigger. 40 blocks a day I walked to my temp job.
No.
So I had only enough money for 1 token, by the time I was at the end of my day, my feet were just like balloons, But I grew up, and I remember walking down the street one day to the next couch that I was allowed to sleep on, and I started feeling sorry for myself. And it was such a strange thought, because I was not allowed to ever feel sorry for myself from my military father. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all, just that feeling of hopelessness and, oh, somebody rescue me. And I remember just this welling up inside of me like, Pamela, you're going to be okay. I'm going to take care of you. And this is where I always joke about that I need to write a book, because didn't have a high chair. Walk outside one day, and in the top of a heap of garbage, what was there? a brand new high chair. I lived right outside of a laundromat, and I walked down one day, and there was a pair of jeans, cleaned and folded, right at the bottom of my steps of my brownstone. And I thought, I looked down the street, looked up the street, nobody around. Okay, well, I picked them up. They fit me. I wore them for months until they were shredded, So
You didn't get
and
out
that
the
was
fringe
the style
at
back
that
then.
point.
That was the style back then, when you put your hose underneath your shredded jeans. That was back in the early 90s, too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but anyway, so the single motherhood helped me to be frugal, as well as God always taking care of me through different things, and we can talk about that as our questions roll on. But the final part, now that I'm married, going on, actually we just celebrated our 9th anniversary, was I don't have a Dave Ramsey story, I have a Russ Poland story. And that is my husband. Whirlwind romance. Met him 17 days later from our only date, he proposed. But he sat me down and he said, we need to talk finances. And I was like, okay. Because I had just kind of made do with, things throughout my life as a single mother. Mm-hmm. And he said, do you have credit cards? I said, uh-huh. He said, go get the scissors.
Oh.
And he said, you want to be married? Those credit cards are getting cut up. And I felt like, if anyone's ever watched the Friends episode where Rachel grabs her library card and she's like so proud of herself for cutting it up, and it's like they're all looking at her like, that's not the real card. That's how I felt. Like, can I just sneak my library card in here, and cut it up?
Pretend.
But yeah, my credit cards got cut up, and I consider myself thrifty, but wow, is my husband a thrifty man.
Wow.
Yes, there is no fat on the bone,
So no cable TV, XM
no
radio in your
cable.
house
He doesn't even have a
either.
cell phone. He doesn't. Yeah, he's a computer guy, so he's like, I'm not having my Social Security out there, and his
very,
number.
very
Yes,
bare
he's
bones.
almost
Okay.
Yeah, so anyway,
Wow. Well,
Yes.
so he whipped you into shape.
he was the
Impetus.
yes. I think I had always had it in me, but just being married to him, I have gone without even more than when I was not a single mother. And for the first 6 months of our marriage, I felt like there were two hands around my throat. And I remember just saying to him, 2 things, honey, know this. Be patient with me and it will only get better. Because I knew it was God's plan that I was to be freed from certain mindsets of how I thought about money. And that's how my husband's helped me. A mindset.
Wow. And that is so important. And I do highly encourage, because you heard about me when I was single too. I think that's the trick, is to make sure that you find an accountability person if you're single. Find somebody who can sort of hold you accountable. Katie and I were at Barnes & Noble's the other day, and she really wanted this My Little Pony book where the little ponies can be suction cupped to the book. I don't know. And I really wanted, this was, it was like a magazine that had these amazing recipes in there for cakes, because I've been taking cake decorating. And I was trying to teach her, even though I really wanted that magazine and it wasn't that expensive, I was trying to teach her, let's go away and see if when we come back next week, because this was in Boardman and we go there once a week for allergy shots, let's see if we come back next week if we still need that. And it was killing me. But we walked away. And really, when we came back next week, we were on to, I think that's what you need to start doing. And it's very hard, but you do. You just need to start saying no or sleeping on it. Because if it's something that you really, really need, then, you'll eventually maybe be able to put the money together and save up to get it. But if it's not, you should be able to walk away from it. All right. Well, so we know a little bit about these ladies and what prompted them to become so money savvy. So now let's try to find out, what is it that, how did you come about getting a budget? What role does a budget seem to play in your life? And I know that Ingrid wanted to talk about this for a little bit, so let's turn the...
I'm first.
You go right ahead. You go right ahead. Tell us the role a budget plays in your home. How did you go about creating a budget for the people who don't even have the first idea of how to do that?
Well, one of the ways that we started was obviously just tracking the expenses, but also evaluating like what the percentages were compared to what our income was, and to see if we were on track or not. And that was one area that we looked at. We also looked at what our goals were, setting up those goals and seeing what it was going to take to actually meet some of those goals, and being flexible. The budget is a working piece of paper, and it's not set in stone, but we had to talk about it, and we had to set those goals together. And for us, if we didn't have those goals, I think we would still be where we were before, just kind of spending and saving as, no real plan or anything. And so once we set those things in motion, we actually were able to meet some of those goals. Some of them were not met, but then as you look back, and like each year, since we're in January now, some of the things that we looked back on, we saw that, oh yeah, we didn't really need that after all. One of the things that one of my kids had wanted a car, of course, when they turned 16. They all want a car, right? So one of the things we had said, let's pray about that, because there really wasn't money for us to buy him a car. And I had 3 boys, so this was one of them, one of their older ones, and original ones. That's what I said.
No copies, right?
And this is all going on YouTube. Great. Oh, Lord have mercy. Yeah. Well, hot flash. Okay. No, sorry. Anyways, one of the things that we did is we just searched and searched and searched and kept praying for it. And anyways, my oldest son did buy a car, but it was kind of a neat story, because he had saved for it, paid for his insurance, paid for his driving lessons, which for all that he paid for. So anyways, when he did buy the car, he of course found out that it needed some work. It was an $800 car. It was a 1986 Fiero, I think. Anyways, it was kind of funny. Still had pictures of that. It was adorable. He worked on it. He learned how to work on that car, and it was a lot of fun. Well, it ended up he wanted to go to the Africa missions trip. So we just said, again, let's sit down and pray about it. And again, this goes back to the goals and how the budget plays into this. And then he ended up selling the car, but he sold it for $400 more than what he bought it for. He sold it for a profit, and that helped to pay for some of Africa. And it's just been something that I've helped the kids with, the give, save, and spend. Give some, save some, and spend some. And it's always fun with the younger children. I have a 12-year-old, which she's the last of the 4.
Kids.
Yeah, of the originals, yeah. Anyways, so it's been a lot of fun with her, trying to have her look at, and she had the same mindset, I'm saving it so I can spend it. I'm like, well, actually, you might want to save it longer, because you might want something down the road that actually would mean more to you, because she's only 12, but yet she's still only 4 years away from a car, and she already has more than my first son had in her bank because of how much
Discipline.
the
She's
discipline.
more disciplined, maybe.
Exactly, and just kind of thinking, maybe I could save that, and
Instead of spending it.
Right?
yeah.
You had her on the panel.
That's right.
Truly, I know. I mean, my daughter,
Someone that young.
she's really becoming, I think a lot of this is starting to translate to her, because normally she'd get money maybe as a gift or something, and we'd make her do the same thing. A little goes into the giving jar, a little goes into the savings jar, and then the rest can go in the spend jar. And even with her spend, we go to Build-A-Bear, and she doesn't want to spend all of it. She still has this mentality to save, which is I'm glad. And I think that is really the key. We're going to talk about how a lot of this can translate to our kids, but you have to get yourself on track first so that your kids can start to reap the benefits of good discipline like that, and have a car one day that they can. So that's awesome that you can report that. Well, what about how you go about creating a budget? Somebody else. Sarah, I think you might have something to share about that. How did you go about? You said your parents sat you down and taught you.
Yeah.
So what are some things that they?
I had been working at my job, I think, a month by then, and they were talking about, it's basically when you're budgeting, you're planning ahead. So things like car insurance that I wasn't necessarily thinking about was brought up. They're bringing up different bills that are going to come up out of the way that you're not necessarily thinking about, especially
Like
those
the ones every 6 months they come
yeah,
up.
every
Okay.
6
Or
months
every
or,
few
whatever.
months.
So it was, okay, here is what your total income is. And of course, giving has to be first. So how much are you going to be giving? What do you give to?
that's good.
Then you subtract that, and you keep subtracting what all your bills are from the month, and at the end, you're left with whatever. And that can be your fun money to go do whatever. But it wasn't until I took Financial Peace that he gives you all these nice forms and talks about all these things like saving for emergencies, which are so important that we never think about, and stuff will come up when you're budgeting. Stuff like the Christmas gifts for me. I was like, oh, I never budgeted for that. Well, that comes in. Well, then life insurance later on. Ooh, I forgot about that one too. So, okay, we put that in the budget. You work it. It really is, like Ingrid said, a living thing that you do. Like you rework it all the time. And he definitely does encourage you to revisit it. But it's
So
good.
then when you do,
Yeah.
so when you get to the point where you now realize, oh no, the life insurance is due,
Yeah.
then something you're saying would get chopped. David's really good at that. Yes, something would get chopped in order to fill that in. So every dollar has a name.
Exactly.
So you need to get to that point where you make sure you start, like she said, with the overarching, this is what I make every week or every month or however your pay comes, and then you just start deducting until you get to zero. Okay, and she's right. You have a little pink, mine's not pink because this was the original, but you have a pink handout, and on your pink handout, it will show you for free budget forms. If you go to daveramsey.com/tools/budget forms, he has those mapped out for you. So all you'd have to do is look and see, and he gives you different things that you probably never thought of, like dry cleaning. Do you ever think that maybe one day you have a whole bunch of things to take to the dry cleaners and you just didn't allow for that in the budget? Stamps, that's right. Sometimes you have a mountain of things to mail and you have no stamps, and those are expensive lately, aren't they? So you have to start thinking about little things as they crop up. And so yes, have family meetings pretty regularly, once a month maybe, to see what came up this month that we didn't think about, and let's add that into the budget, and let's replace here, and you get on a spreadsheet maybe, if that helps to make things work out. And I'm always free, or willing, I should say, to sit down with anybody if you need any guidance on that. Okay, so go to that to help you with that. And I really liked what she had to say about making giving a priority. And I think that Dave Ramsey does teach that, where the very first thing that he has you do is, because a lot of us, we think backwards, don't we? We think of giving to the church if there's money left over, or giving to something of God's work, maybe not just to the church. And that he tries to retrain you into thinking that it's really the opposite. You really should make that the very first thing that you give to God first. And then you'll start to see, when you make that decision, all of the other things will fall into place. It's happened time and again. My husband and I do teach Financial Peace University here, and we have multiple students that have come back to us with their success stories of when they started changing their thinking about how to manage their money and to tell their money what to do. That's what Dave Ramsey says. When you make a budget, you're essentially telling your money what to do. You're not letting your money dictate to you what is going to happen. You're telling it what's going to happen in your life. So I think it's great. Okay, so tell us some tricks about, and I know that Heather is bursting because she is like, she's like, bursting is really not the word I would say, but she has so many tricks up her sleeve for how she has saved money on a lot of things, particularly food. So many of us, I'm sure, interested is, how do we start saving money on food besides the age-old coupons? How many use coupons? And you still think you probably could save even more if you just knew what to do. And so I'm hoping that she can give us some insight on that. So you go, girl.
Yeah, I don't coupon. I've looked into it, but I just really don't understand it in the whole extreme couponing sense, I mean. But I'll cut them out and occasionally use them, but I usually forget about them. But I shop mostly store brand. And I buy cheap macaroni and cheese, by the way, and it's
Sorry,
very
it
good.
has no flavor. I draw the line. It has no flavor.
It's like 39 cents at Aldi's. But I do. I shop at Aldi's, of course. This isn't anything that I guess anybody doesn't know, but store brand is definitely cheaper. But the big thing that I do is freezer cooking. And what that means is you make meals ahead of time and put them in the freezer. And how I save money with that is I cook with 2 other friends, and we do this once a month together. And that way we shop together and save split the bills. So we are able to shop in bulk, and that is usually done at Sam's because you can buy the meat in cases in the back, not from the actual shelf. And it's a different price when you buy it in bulk back there. So then we split that, and we actually get together at one place. It's my one friend's house, and we plan out the meals. We have a day of preparation, and then we have a day of actual cooking. And I only have to cook 1 time in a month. It's lovely.
And then you just thaw and heat and serve, basically.
Yes, and it's not just for money. It's actually more for convenience and being a working mom, and I don't have to worry about when I go home what I'm going to cook. Stand at the I can't even imagine doing this anymore. I go home, I'm thinking about it when I go home and writing about it. You sit on the couch. You go, what do you want? I don't know. What do you want to eat? I don't know. Open the refrigerator door. I don't know. We got this. I don't know. Sit back down. I don't know, it's 6 o'clock, we gotta eat something, hurry up, we gotta, And then 7 o'clock says, let's go to McDonald's.
Yeah.
Or order pizza, and I very rarely do that anymore, so that's how you save money with freezer cooking as well, because I always have something at the house. I don't eat out very much because I have food there. And it's nice to have meals in my freezer to be able to freely give meals to people. I've never been able to really do that, Someone I know that's in the hospital or had a baby, I don't have to do anything. I go, I made you a meal. It's right here. Here's a lasagna.
That's
and
awesome.
I made, and it's healthier, you're not eating out.
Sure.
It's homemade food, and so it's good for calories, all that kind of
That's
stuff.
right. Excellent.
And menu planning, too, sort of goes along with that. I gradually work my way out of planning, though, since I have a bunch of things in my freezer now. I don't really have to think too much ahead of time other than I take about 2 meals out of my freezer and put them in the refrigerator at a time. That way I have something sort of thawing in there. And so when I come home, I just got to put it in the oven.
Do you, with your friends, pretty much make the same things every time because you have a whole month to use them, so you're on this sort of revolving?
No, it's not revolving, really. How we actually do it is we have a Facebook group that's private between us 3, and we collect recipes from online mostly.
Oh, okay.
And we'll just, the week before we're going to cook, we'll post different recipes on there, and we comment yes or no if we think we would like them. And if someone says no, we erase that one and put a new one on there until we get as many as we want, which is usually about 15 recipes, and we usually double them. So if it's a lasagna, I'm going to have 2 of them. The other friend's going to have 2 of them. And the other friend's going to have 2
okay.
of them.
So
we're making about 15 meals, but times multiple times.
Right.
So we just, until we get something we all agree on, we have all the recipes, and then it is a lot of preparation. I mean, you have to plan out all the ingredients and a shopping day, a prepping day. So we actually shop together. 2 of us do, not all 3 of us. One actually lives in Cleveland, so the other one.
So it's like a real day, a couple of days of getting together and.
So a little bit online, that's just sort of casual. That's not really hard, putting some recipes on there. The day before, about 2 days before usually we shop. And we actually use a software that helps us gather our ingredients. It's called 30 days. Well, let me think of that. 30 meals. What is it, Sonia? Yes, thank you. So
30 meals in a day.
30 meals in a day.
So you can go to
It's like $20. So what it is.
Do you go on Amazon and get something like that, or do you?
It actually has its own website. It's called.
Oh, okay. All right. So now you know.
It's for freezer cooking. So.
And I know if you go to Google and just type in freezer cooking meals, that's where you can get a lot of your recipes. Google is great for just
freezer
finding
cooking
them.
or once a month
I
cooking.
think.
It's called
I
a
got
lot
a
of
good one
times
for
once a month cooking. But the software is really nice. It has recipes in there to use if you want, but you can also input your own recipes. And once you put the recipes in there, you can change the yield or change the servings, and it'll automatically change the amounts for you.
Get out.
So then you could make a menu from that. So I can.
It's really cool.
I can click on like lasagna, meatballs, marinated chicken, whatever, and then I can name my meals, my menu, like October menu, October cooking menu. Click on which recipes I want, and so that way it adds up all of those recipes and puts it on my menu and makes a shopping list for me.
Oh, see, this is why we came. You at least now know how to go about doing it. If you're going to do it, you should do it that way. Because I have done this with a friend, friends of mine. We've done this, and we didn't have that program, and it was
It's a
tricky.
lifesaver. I'm
Because
not
you're
even
doing
done.
math. You're like, okay, well, how many sour creams are we going to need if
No
we're going
math.
to do this, and we're going to triple? And I was an English major, so that was very hard for me to do all that math. So
No
I
math.
get it.
No math, and also what it does, it makes a shopping list. And so if you have, cheddar cheese on one recipe and, another cheddar cheese on another recipe, it's going to add it all up for you. It also figures out how much, foil you'll need or pans or whatever, sort of estimates that for you. Your
Get
supplies.
out.
And then,
That's
not
awesome.
only that, I can print from there the actual recipe so we can have them while we're cooking, but then it also makes labels for my actual meals. So I use foil pans a lot of the times, and so it has a title like lasagna, and it has cooking directions right there. Cook at 350 for 1 hour, blah, 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 and I stick it right on there. So it's really, really awesome.
Well, now that I know this, Sharon, we'll do it again. we stopped doing it for a while, but now maybe if we have
You
the
don't
right
have to
software.
have friends that do freezer cooking. I mean, it's nice to do it with friends, but
You can do it on your
you
own.
can do it by yourself.
You can do it with your. Yes,
Sometimes
exactly.
if you just start off by just doing, you're making a meatloaf, well, make 3 of them. You already have it out, and it's the same ingredients. It really doesn't take much more time, and put the other 3 in the freezer.
It's good. That's
Or
a
the
really
same
good
type
idea.
of meat. You have chicken, buy a case of chicken. Make like 10 different marinades of chicken and put them in a bag and label them, put them in the freezer. There's also a way you can just do a swap where you don't want to cook at someone's house. You can choose, I've done this before, where you pick 5 recipes. This friend's going to make these 5 recipes, your other friend's going to make 5, and your other friend's going to make 5 different ones. And then
You make enough to
you
swap.
make enough to swap, yeah. So then you don't have to make 15 different recipes, you only made 5.
That's
And
awesome.
so those are some ideas with that. But menu planning, I think, helps if you're not going to freezer cook, just menu planning out what you're going to eat for. It could be a 1 week, 2 weeks, a month. I think a month's too long myself, but I have seen people do that. I saved money going to the grocery store like that because you don't just randomly walk down the aisles and throw things in the buggy and then you don't even have anything to make a meal. You spent $300 and then I go, what am I going to make? So
Preach it. I get it. It's so true.
So if I say I'm going to have meatloaf with green beans and potatoes on Monday, and then you go to the store and go with that menu in your hand and buy those things along with some other snacks and stuff, I found that I spent a lot less money and actually used my ingredients that I bought.
Well, yeah, and before doing that, because we do that, we make our menu for the week before we go to the grocery store, and we always go through and see what
you
we
have.
already have, and if we have 1 can of something that, will require taco meat or something to go with it, then we make sure that we are going to make tacos this week so we can use that up. I mean, it's just a thought process. It's just about thinking ahead, I think, right? Right.
And I should say, we spend probably an average, I usually go home, we usually make about 100 meals in a cooking session.
Phew.
Yeah, it's a long, and that takes us, we'll start about 10 o'clock in the morning and be done maybe 5, 6 o'clock at night. And we go home and fill my freezer.
Sharon and I are looking at each other because we were like all-nighters doing it when we did it. So clearly we got to get it
But
down.
that's preparing the night before. I should say that's preparing the night before, meaning if there is ground beef that needs browned, that's the night before. Chicken's trimmed the night before.
Oh.
things
Not
like
just
that.
having it in your possession. See, that's what we called preparing. Was it's in a bag, it's in the house, we have it.
So, no, there's a preparing day too, if you want to get done like that. Now, one time we way overestimated ourselves, and there's 3 of us, like I said, that cook together. And the one, I forget why she couldn't be there. Once you buy this food, I mean, you have to cook it. You can't have 3 cases of chicken in your refrigerator and not cook it. And then if you freeze it and then have to, go out and refreeze, you're done.
Thaw it
So
out.
we just looked at each other and we said, we're going to have to do this. We're going to have to cook. We were up till 4 a.m. and we finished.
Oh, see, now that sounds more realistic.
Yeah. No,
Thank you. I
That was
was
only one
having a
time.
complex for a minute about that.
But it sort of makes it fun if you have some friends to cook.
Well, that's
I do not. I will say, everybody always says, "Oh my gosh, I would never do that. I hate cooking." Well, I do too. That's why I freezer cook, because I don't want to cook every night. I don't have pots and pans every night. I buy foil pans. I put it in the oven. I throw it away.
I love that. That's awesome.
I don't like cooking that, but so it's better to me to cook one time, and I don't have to think about it for a month.
And you save money.
That is great.
And I save money.
And you save money.
One website I wanted to mention for just menu planning and freezer cooking is moneysavingmom.com. And she has a lot of free printables that you can have for
love that.
freezer cooking planning, but also just menu planning. Like she'll have nice little cute, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and like a shopping list on the side. All kinds of recipes, all kinds of free printables.
Moneysavingmom.com.
Yeah.
If you notice on your list of resources too, there's another lady called Passionate Penny Pincher. And it isn't just for food, but she has where she seems to know where all the deals are for the week. And so her biggest thing, I just quickly perused it, but it seems as though she knows that you can get free starch at Walgreens on Thursday, and on Friday you can go to Target and get free this or that, and Starbucks is offering these free cups of coffee for
That's
this.
too much
I mean,
work for
she
me.
knows. It's
That's too much
amazing.
thought.
It is. Did you know that Target has printable coupons?
Yes.
I did not know, but she knew, and she has them listed what Target's coupons are for the week. So there are people out there who've done all this work for you. It's just a matter of you going to that resource. So it's on your list of resources. Very good. Any other food tips? Anybody else have tips for how you? Did I interrupt? Is there something else that you wanted to say?
Trying to think. Oh, I don't know. An average cost of what I spend, I guess, would be a good thing. We make about 100 meals, like I mentioned, and between the 3 of us, an average spend is only about $150 each.
Wow, for the month.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's
I still
pretty
grocery shop. Don't get me wrong. That's
Those
that's
are just
like
the meals. That's not lunches and.
I still spend probably about $500 a month in groceries, food.
But so you add that. So how many is in your family?
I have 2 kids and a husband for 4, family of 4.
Family of 4, $500 a month for groceries, plus the $150 for the month, so $600.
No, that's including.
Oh, that's including.
Yeah.
So
Because I still go, and I shop mostly at Aldi, so I just go get my sides and lunches and, things like that. So I already have most of my meals already shopped for. But I think it ends up being cheaper because we can split, ingredients too. So things that you would just buy for one recipe.
Right.
Yeah, you end
Sometimes
up.
you buy things for one recipe and you don't really use
Well,
it.
right. You end up with that thing of sour cream or
Yeah.
cottage cheese or something, and you only used a smidgen, but you had no choice. I know. I hate that.
Once a month meals is another website where I get most of my recipes for freezer cooking. Freezer cooking doesn't have to be specific meal recipes necessarily. You can take any recipe and just put it into the freezer instead. But if you really want specifically, freezer cooking recipes, you can search that word, freezer cooking or once a month cooking. But I really like onceamonthmeals.com and the pioneerwoman.com.
Oh yeah, she's good.
She has other recipes, but she has a section just for freezer cooking as well.
Okay.
And my friend that I cook with does freezer cooking classes. So if anybody's interested in learning the process and not doing the preparing and the prep work and the shopping, she does all that for people, and you just pretty much show up and cook and see how the process goes. we're going to be live on YouTube, so I'm not going to say all our information right now, but I did put a sign up in the back, or you can come and ask me more about it. She does like 1 week ones where, it doesn't take a week. She does where you cook like 1 week's worth of meals, and then she does one where you make 30 days of meals.
So see Heather at the end if you have questions about how you can get involved in freezer cooking classes where you can get trained on how to do this very well. All right, well, how about saving money on other things? Because, food, yes, that's a really good way. Shopping at the right places. We shop at Rulli Brothers. We go all the way to Boardman and shop at Rulli Brothers and fill our carts with lots of produce and come out of there with paying very little. So if you're willing to make that trip, you really can save going to Rulli Brothers locally. I have to give a shout out to them. You can get so much meat at the butcher counter for next to nothing. It's amazing. So I do say that's another way for food to save money. But let's move on to like gas. How do you save money at the tank? Anybody have a good tip for that?
Well, it sounds
Don't
silly,
drive.
But, I'm a traveling piano teacher, so I have to.
Go to house to
I
house?
go house to house, yes.
Oh, okay.
And I set my schedule at the end of August, and so like on my way home at the end of my night, if I'm passing the grocery store, I'll stop and get my groceries then. Like I pretty much do it at unconventional times, So that's what works for me
So
personally.
that helps you to save money on
Yes,
gas
yes.
because you're
So that I
doing
don't
it
have to
en
go-
route,
so I'm
not making
home
a special trip.
and then have to go back
I
out.
see.
Yes.
Okay.
And my daughter's grown, so I just shop for my husband and I. But I do all my shopping on Sunday, and I make sure I have my list. And I know this is going to sound silly, but I read this statistically that try and make all right-hand turns because you save on gas. So I start off at Giant Eagle, and then I do my right-hand turn into Sam's Club. I have to make a left for Aldi's, but then I make a right-hand turn onto 422, and then a right-hand turn to Bottom Dollar, and then I'm home, right-hand turn. It's just this one big loop. So they say that by right-hand turns, you spend less.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
Because you're not sitting idle waiting to turn left.
Yeah.
Idle.
And this is probably so minuscule that, maybe it doesn't make a difference, but to me, because my job is a couple 100 miles a week, I incorporate my shopping into my work day at the
Sure.
end, and I make sure that I just do my right-hand turns.
Okay.
So that's what I do.
Does anybody else have a technique for saving money on gas? I can't say that I know. I know that there's some app that you can get, I think, for your phone that tells you where the cheapest gas is. But my thought is, by the time you drive all the way there to get the cheaper gas, of course, everybody knows about fuel perks with,
Yes.
Giant Eagle and their fuel perks and things like that, so you can do that. All right, well, then let's move on to clothing. Who gets good deals on their clothes, and how does that happen?
Hand-me-downs.
Hand-me-downs.
Never too old
beg,
for
borrow, and
hand-me-down.
steal.
It's true. I mentioned that, when I grew out of my pants, my dad would sew fringe on them. And I'm a 70s girl, so my sister took me for my first Goodwill thrifting experience when I was 16, and I was hooked. So what I do personally is I look through magazines. I don't necessarily purchase them, but and I'll get ideas. And
Like
then,
Barnes and Nobles, you sit there, you
Yeah.
flip through, you get
Yeah.
good recipe ideas,
Yeah.
and you don't buy the bag.
Yeah.
I know. Oops.
So then I will basically just kind of, have a mental picture of something, and then find it. So I dressed today. I think I said this already, but I'm pretty unconventional. So this was a gift from my mother. My mother's the shopper. So when she's going through her clothes, I'm like, Mom, call me. Can I have your leftovers? Whatever you're going to put in the box for Goodwill, call me. So this was in the box. It's a Michael Stars. And the belt was probably maybe $2 at the end of on a sale rack. My boots are Uggs, and they were a gift given to me from one of my moms. she was out in Colorado and she just bought them on the spur of the moment, and they were too big for her. So I came to the lesson, and she was like, "These are you," and I was like, "Yeah, those are my biker boots." Wow. So, but the skirt was $1. So and my jewelry I make my own. So, between this is maybe. I don't know, what did I spend? I'm usually less than a $20 bill.
It's like $3.
Yeah.
You spent $3.
Yeah. And my coat,
And I'm an English major, so that was
I'm so proud of my coat, my dollar coat, So, because like I said, I love vintage. I love vintage. So,
Well, do you have any consignment stores where you like to
Yeah.
shop that you think are great places to? Anybody up here have a consignment store that you recommend in the area where you get good deals? All I know is that Heather, she's like being all silent, but Heather got on this panel because she was able to find those Miss Me jeans for a fraction of the cost. And that's what registered with me. I'm like, oh, maybe she should be on this panel. And yet she's not talking right now. Where'd you get the Miss Me jeans?
Sure, Heather.
Well, I used to shop on eBay and Craigslist and stuff like that, and I've been having more luck with local buy-seller trade sites. I don't know if anybody's familiar with some of them on Facebook. That's sort of a big thing in this past year or so. I think more than, I don't know how much longer they've been on there, but at least me, I've been personally shopping on buy-seller trade sites on Facebook. And what that is if you're on Facebook, there's groups that you can belong to. And I believe most of towns around here have their own, but I personally use the one called Howland Buy Seller Trade. And I know there's people out here that are on there because I've seen them at the meets. But it's sort of a safer way to buy online from people rather than Craigslist, because you have to know someone to get into the group, and then you meet in a group setting or at a public setting at least. But the Howland Buy Seller Trade does like auctions every 2 weekends or whatever. And then you have a set time where you're meeting at a local church, and you sort of exchange whoever you bought from. So they post pictures of stuff they're selling and the price, and you comment and say, I want it. And then you meet up and you exchange your items. So I think
sell,
yeah.
or trade.
And you could look up any kind of search in Facebook like Champion Buy Seller Trade, Leavittsburg Buy Seller Trade. I know there's those two. There's Trumbull County one. There's two Howland ones. There's what other one?
Interesting.
Is it like Craigslist?
Kids.
Oh,
There's
okay.
there's
Buy,
a
sell, or
kids
trade.
consignment. What's that kids one called? Kids. I know you're on there, Sonia. Anyway, I mean, you put the word buy, sell, or trade and some kind of town in there where you live or close to it. You don't necessarily have to live in that town. I live in Champion, but I use that Howland one more because it just has a lot more members and a lot of better stuff on there. So yes, I'm wearing them. I got Miss Me's on there for $30, and those are $100 jeans I would never pay for. Yes. You have to request, like any kind of group, you have to be added by another member. So like, I know so-and-so, I know someone on there, and I'll say, will you invite me? And they have to put your name in there and invite you, and the administrator has to accept you. So it is a little bit closed because they want you to know someone so you're not a stalker or something, I don't know. But other ones you can just request an ad. Like there's a little, I'm trying to think what the actual wording is, but it'll say add member, and you could type in your name and request to be added to it. Or someone, if you know someone in the group, you can ask them, hey, will you put a request that I can be in the group? I think I've clothed 90% of my children's wardrobe there this year because there's just stuff on there all the time.
That's wonderful.
And
okay, so that's definitely one. Also look out for large garage sales. I know there's one particular area, large garage sale through another church where my daughter used to go to preschool, and they have one once a year in the springtime. And literally, their jeans are $1, their shoes are 50 cents, and they're nice. I mean, everything's really nice. Coats are $2. And so when you go to so just be looking for garage sales because they're always in the paper, which I'm not allowed to get anymore. But so let me know.
Free online. You can look at it free online.
I'm just kidding. Anyway, yes, I can go online and read the paper online. Anyway, Ingrid just recently went on a vacation. So how did you save money to get prepared for this vacation? How were you able to do that? We're going to move on
Well,
to
the
vacations.
vacation itself, we saved a lot just because, again, planning meals. So we hardly bought anything out, actually. We didn't eat out until we got back because we didn't have any food in the house. Now this vacation that we went on, we actually stayed with family. So that just happened to be, a lot. And it was a lot of fun. We had saved up for it. We went down to Florida and stuff. But other vacations that we've taken, we do it with other people, and that always tends to save. Because again, we plan the meals together, we plan what we're going to do, and the kids have a lot of fun memories with things that didn't usually cost all that much. I think the most expensive thing that we've done yet with the kids is Disney. So, anyways.
Yeah, those Whopper deals you get at Disney.
Yeah, and we've only ever gone there once, and so that was it.
Had a question and it just went right out of my head. Oh, does anybody know of a particular website? I mean, sometimes we type in Travelocity and they package things together so you can get your flight, your hotel, and your, I don't know, some fun things to do while you're there, all kind of packaged together. Does anybody up here have any idea of any kind of package deal like that? Pam's like, I just might. If I go into my little notebook.
If I can plug freezer cooking in with vacation, I know my friend that I cook with, she's just in Disney now actually, and she takes her freezer meals with her and gets a hotel with a refrigerator, and
Oh
she
my
doesn't have to go
gosh.
out to eat. You have to
Wow,
eat.
that's hardcore. Wow. Huh. Okay.
But you
Don't
know,
tell David about that.
Nothing screams vacation than bringing all those meals with you.
You don't have to cook. Yeah.
See, I'm still a spender at heart. My
Yeah.
attitude is just
Yeah.
pay the man for a nice
You don't
meal.
ever stay in a house and go grocery
I
shopping when
know,
you're on vacation?
I know. I'm
You don't have to
awful.
grocery shop then.
I'm awful. All right, anyway. Okay, so any other tips for food, gas, clothing, vacations? Yes, Pam.
Overall, and I think I mentioned my mom before, I put my mother on a budget last year. And she, she's like this to me because I don't think when all the kids are gone and you're at a stage in your life where you can actually spend, you get a little loose with it, Yeah. And I'm not going to embarrass my mother by saying, but I can tell you that her clothing expense yearly was exorbitant. One woman could not wear all the clothes that she was buying, really. And she was trying, though, because she would dress every day. She's a piano teacher as well. So I put her on a budget, and it was just, she was at this breaking point, where she just knew that what she was spending was just not righteous at all. So I gave her a piece of advice, and it has helped me, because we're talking about all these ways to be thrifty, but we have to have the money to do it, right? So I'm going to just add a little element in there. Shop in your own home. Shop in your own pantry. Shop in your own closet. Shop in your own cupboards. When you see a tablecloth and you think you want that, I have a little curio cabinet, and I was, after Christmas, I was putting some stuff away, and I was like, hey, check out this beautiful tablecloth. I had forgotten I had it. And it's not a bad thing to regift, okay? I did not want to regift. This is a silly story, I'll tell it really quick. My mom and dad's favorite colander with the handle broke. And so I was on a quest to give them a new colander with a handle for Christmas, one of, a couple things that I was going to get them. And I was like, hey, I think I have one just like this. So what did I do? I took my colander with the handle and I put it in a bag to remind me that every time I went out to teach and then shopped, at the grocery store after or on my way somewhere else, I would look somewhere to find this colander. I went to 8 different stores before Christmas.
Were they all right turns? Did you make right turns to get there? Okay.
Could not find this colander anywhere. And then I realized when I got home, I'm thinking, there's the colander that you're supposed to give your mom and dad.
Just give her yours.
Just give them yours. And so it's not a bad thing to re-gift, because when my mom pulled that thing out of that bag, she was like, her whole face lit up over a colander. You know, so I say, if you remember,
what you
one
have.
thing from me
Use what you have.
is that you shop in your own home.
You know, David and I did that once. We took the paintings that were in this room and decided to put them in this room. And it was like we had a whole new house.
Right.
Because we were able to, you know, because you're looking at them in a different,
Yes.
from a different level. So I think you're right. If you just shop around your home, chances are you can have a whole new
Right.
interior design. Okay, so let's move to our next question. How do you translate your values? Because it seems as though we obviously are trying to be thrifty. My poor parents try as they might to translate their values of being thrifty onto me. It made me, for a little while, and for some of you, rebel and become more of a spender, until now I'm realizing as I'm getting older that I want to translate the values of thriftiness onto my child. So how do you translate this thriftiness onto your children? Because this is very difficult. Ingrid.
I knew you were going to say that. Well, there's two things, and this is why I'm sitting here holding my phone. Of course, now it's not going to turn on. In 2 Corinthians 9:7, each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And that was kind of one of the things that we started with our kids. When my oldest son was very little, the Oklahoma bombing happened, and he had sent, I'm from Oklahoma, so he had sent money to I think it was the American Red Cross, and he put all his money in an envelope with a letter and mailed it off to them. And it's like, at that point, I was like, oh, that was so sweet. But it's like that right there, it's like when you start teaching your children or those people around you, if you ever have a chance to speak to somebody who maybe is having money problems, it's just like really translating what it is that, you know, is important and what it is that's most important to your own heart. And as being a Christian, what's important to God's heart. And really wanting to have that go beyond just my generation, just between my husband and I, but go to my children and to my children's children, and really wanting them to understand and be able to have it put into effect for their own lives. Each child is going to live differently, but and they're all going to have to learn their own lessons. So it's not like they're not going to have hard lessons, I'm sure. But when they started with those little jars of the give, save, and spend, and literally I had jars because I was too cheap to buy the bank from Crown. So we had their little jars, and they did their give, save, and spend. But as they've gotten older, I had them on our many road trips, because I am from Oklahoma, and we drive everywhere because there's 6 of us, and there's no way we're going to fly. So I would pop those tapes in back when they were tapes, and now CDs and MP3 players, and have them all listen to it, because I thought, well, what better way to learn about this than we're in the car for a really long time, so we may as well do something. So that was one of the things that we did.
She's talking, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, sorry.
She's talking about tapes, because there are, if you ever do a Dave Ramsey or a Crown Financial, those are the two that we really recommend here at Northmore. If you ever do one of their courses, they come with an audio CDs or DVD, I don't know, CDs, I guess,
They're
audio.
CDs, yeah.
Right. And so you can listen to how to save money. There's a CD on how to save money. There's a CD on how to dump your debt. There's a CD on, how to make your cash flow smoothly, get yourself on a budget, how to save for college, there's all these CDs. And so I think what she's saying is, because you get this kit when you sign up for a Financial Peace University class, you have access to that, so you can have your kids listen to that.
Yeah.
And
it
there
really
you go.
does make a big difference, because they understand the value of money. And we opened up like what we actually spend. They know, we're not going to buy this because our goal is to save some, but also to spend it over here instead. And one of the things that we lost our dog just a couple months ago, and one of the kids looked at me, and I just had to laugh because we're sitting at the table, and they're like, "We really want a new dog." And the one looked at me and said, "Well, if we hadn't just taken this vacation, we might have gotten a dog." And it was the Disney part of the vacation that actually would be, like, had we not gone to Disney, then we could have actually had this dog that they were looking at online. So I think they got it. And it's just been kind of funny to watch because I have two of them in college. The first one actually went, his first year was all paid for from savings and work and scholarships and all the different things that you go through to beg, plead, and borrow, and not borrow, but borrow anyways. But our second son actually, it has to do a different route. So he actually did have to take out a small loan, but he has a whole different plan for his second year, which he actually signed up to do the Navy Reserves. So he has a whole different set of how he's going to afford to pay for it, so he doesn't have to take out any more loans. And it's just neat to see them start to walk in those steps. Sarah, I remember when Sarah was going through her stuff, and it's so neat to hear her say, "Yeah, I'm on a budget, and I'm going to have this all paid off." So wouldn't you have loved to have known all that when you were that age? Wouldn't we all?
That's just it, exactly. So
I mean,
that you don't enter in to a marriage or anything
Yeah.
with so much debt.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I mean, we've all been there where we've had to, at the end of the month, it's looking pretty slim in the cupboards, or it's looking, your clothes are maybe in need of being replaced or whatever, and you're thinking, okay, how's this going to work, and how's this going to happen, or you did forget about that bill or Christmas or whatever, and you think, okay, how am I going to do this, and yet there's a way, especially when you budget. I mean, God provides, and that's the cool thing about all this.
Well, and that's just it. There are definitely ways that you can be a little more frugal. I want to direct our attention to some of those ways. Let's move to the next slide. Diane, if you would help us out with the next slide, please, dear. We are looking at a recipe where you can make your own. This is on your handout. It's on the back of your handout. You can make your own laundry detergent. Okay? Compliments of Heather. She's very creative with how she spends her money. And so there's a way, and I even have the pictures of the different items that it takes to make your own laundry detergent. So you can make your own laundry detergent. That's one way to save money. Other resources for you that are on your handout, I just want to go over with you. I'm just trying to make sure that we get out on time. And that is, if you don't have any idea where to start, my husband and I started with this book. It's called The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. Dave, if you're watching, you really owe us, man. We're talking about you a lot tonight. But this is it has all of the budget worksheets in here. It has all the tools that you would need to get you started. So if you need an economical way to get started with a budget, I highly recommend either this or going to Dave Ramsey's website, where he has free tools online. Those budget forms, like I mentioned earlier, the website for that is right here on your handout. The other thing is, my husband and I are teaching Financial Peace University here at Northmar on Sunday mornings starting January 19th. So that gives you yes, there's the postcard. Thank you, Jill. There's a postcard right in front of you that shows you how to register online. If you want to make a commitment that today's the day that you're going to start fresh, we have sign-up sheets for that in the back. You can sign up, but what happens is you do pay a small fee, but it's a 9-week course, and you come to our class at 9:30 in the gymnasium here every Sunday for 9 weeks starting January 19th. And if you have to miss a Sunday, they have the CDs of the video you would have missed in here. But you come and you learn all the things that we've been talking about: how to create a budget, how to get out of debt, how to start saving for college, how to invest in mutual funds, what kind of insurance do I need? Do I have to have every insurance out there, or what are the most important insurances that I would need to have? What am I missing? Because a lot of these people were through Financial Peace, so
Retirement. giving,
Retirement.
saving.
What comes first? Do I start saving for retirement or pay my house off? Like really attack my mortgage payment? What's the first thing? You learn all that in this course. So we highly recommend it. It's you can sign up or you can register online for that. And so we hope to see you on January 19th. The other things that are on here, Crown Financial, we said, was another great financial advisor ministry, and that website is on here. I have that Daily Bargains from Passionate Penny Pincher on here. And Heather, I turn it over to you for well, before I get to Heather, the only other thing on there is if you have no idea just what your credit score is and what it looks like, you can go to freecreditreport.com, and you are entitled to one free credit report a year, and at that website you can go, so you wouldn't even have to pay for it, just to find out if you have any outstanding things out there you didn't even know about. So that's on there, and Heather, I'm going to turn it over to her. She has a project for us for February. It's homework. So.
Homework. More like a challenge, I guess. This is not personally my idea, but I've read about several of these challenges online and kept thinking I wanted to try it. And it was called No Spend Months, basically. It's like a challenge or a boot camp for your budget where you pick a very low budget for just essentials in your daily life. What is essentials? I guess that's something you have to decide, but apparently you need food. I'm not talking about bills. You have to pay your bills, but any kind of spending. So you want to pick a small amount of money, which I'm going to do $200. And that would be what we spend in, food, entertainment, there's probably not going to be much hobbies going on, things like that. You're stopping to get coffee, you're probably not going to do. You're, going to get your nails done, whatever. Some people say, well, I already do that. I feel like I already sort of do that anyways, but it's more like an awakening to realize how much we think about things that we want a lot of the times and things that we could probably do without. And you can even think of it like a fast, and that's how I'm going to try to think about it. And I made a group on Facebook again. I'm talking about Facebook a lot today, but I think you have a link up here.
It's on there. It's Heather's site. I have it listed. It's a Facebook site called No Spend February. So it's listed on your resources under the Penny Pincher one. So you have that to consult during the month of February.
So it's sort of like to do it together, and
Yeah.
put your accomplishments or your struggles, or I wanted to buy this today. Man, I can't believe I'm thinking about this so much. I went over, I didn't know. This is something free to do, whatever ideas, and to support each other and just help each other in the challenge. It could be cutting out impulse buys just at grocery stores. Things you walk past the aisle and go, oh, I can't have that. I only have $200 to spend this month,
Right.
or whatever.
It comes back to that principle of living out of that envelope. Yeah. So if you have to stretch that envelope for an entire month, you will be very deliberate about the things that you buy. And that's a great training lesson for your kids too, teaching them about the values. We're just going to do a fast for this month. And then probably, if you do that for a whole month, I'd like to think that come to March, you're going to attack March a little differently than you probably normally would have. But I'm all about going out on like January 31st to the mall and like going hog wild, right? Before we get started?
No.
Who's in with that? Yeah, right. Okay. Anyway, so we can join Heather with that. No Spend February. So I really encourage us to take baby steps. Maybe you don't have to dive right into something like that, or maybe for some of you that's what you have to do in order to make some real changes, right? So 2 important takeaways I think that we need to talk about for this whole idea of how to become more money savvy. The first one is I don't think you can see it up there, but it's Jesus is sitting next to a man on a bench, and it says it doesn't matter where you go in life, what you do, or how much you have. It's who you have beside you. And so I want you to know that if you're a worrier for how you're supposed to make ends meet, this is tough economic times. A lot of us are hearing about people losing their jobs left and right. You're not supposed to fear. The Bible says in Psalms 46, 1-3, God is our refuge and our strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. So we fear not when earthquakes come and the mountains crumble into the sea. Let the oceans roar and foam. Let the mountains tremble as the waters surge. Because if you place your security in your finances, you're just gonna fail every time. But if you place your security in Christ, you can say, bring it on. Who cares if I get a flat tire? Who cares if my refrigerator breaks down? God will provide if we have some unexpected bill. Paul tells us in Philippians, and my God will meet all your needs according to his riches in Christ Jesus. And that's from Philippians 4:19. And then Luke tells us that nothing is impossible with God, and that is in Luke 1:37. And that's really one of the takeaways to take from this is don't place your security in the wrong thing. Place it in God, and he will provide everything. But the key is he will provide what you need. And too often we think that what we want is what really matters. It's not our wants. So the second takeaway is to be content with what you've been given. That's a real key. Paul also wrote while he was in prison to the Philippians, he wrote, I have learned to be content with whatever I have. I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I have learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it is a full stomach or an empty one, with plenty or with little. For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. That's Philippians 4:11 through 13. And my husband and I, when we first started going through financial peace, we did sort of a cleansing like what she's talking about. So much so that we needed to be reminded of it every day. So he stenciled, it's in our first home, he stenciled above the kitchen cabinets, that soffit that's there, he stenciled a Proverbs 30, verse 8. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Give me only my daily bread. Sorry. Anyway, try living out of envelopes. Pay cash only for things. Limit what you buy. Look for bargains before you buy something. Start planning ahead, because that's really the issue, because you can go to Walmart and drop $50. Or bring coupons with you. Go to places that honor double coupons, or just say no. Is it a need or is it a want? Be content with what you already have. God truly will reward you for being a good steward, because I've seen it time and again in my own life and with stories where people have come back from having taken financial peace and have told us as much. So we hope that you got something out of this. At least some creative juices are flowing now so that you can go forth and make those meals and freeze away and, make these beautiful laminated envelopes or something like I have. Okay, so we really appreciate you coming, and I'm going to call forward Jill Huffman. She's going to pray us home, and feel free to stay for just a few minutes and fellowship. But if you do have children who are waiting to be picked up, we ask that you be cognizant of that and get them, and then you can bring them back in here and fellowship just a little bit longer. Okay, so Jill. Is it on? No? Okay, let's try that again. Maybe.
Is it on?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, I was going to lend you my. Being thrifty, we'll share one.
Let's go ahead and pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for this time that we could spend together. Lord, I pray that each and every woman here was touched with something that the panelists were willing to share with us. We thank you for their wisdom. We thank you for their openness and candidness and vulnerability to be on the panel. Lord, I pray that if the Holy Spirit is speaking to any of us about being better stewards of our money, that you would just allow us to be obedient. Lord, I thank you for the blessings that you give to us each day. I thank you for the fact that we can have a lot and we can have a little, but you're always there with us, guiding us. Lord, I pray that we will look to you throughout this year, and may we be better stewards. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, thanks, everyone. God bless you all. Come back. Oh, sorry. I meant that to be it, but come back. The next Ladies and Lattes, if this was at all edifying to you, or if you want to check out some of the other Ladies and Lattes, you can go to youtube.com. In a search, type in Ladies and Lattes, and there's about 4 or 5 of them now that you can kind of peruse to see. But the next one is called Fostering Fabulous Friendships, March 21st. And then on May 9th, celebrating women. particularly women who are doing amazing things in our community. So come back and have a good night. Woo!